Good morning. Welcome to Frank's School. I'm not in protesting uniform today. I'm inside. Anyway, this is the 7th year, 92nd day, first video. Protesting with a sign. Today's Thursday. I'll post this. Tomorrow's Friday, and once again, I'm going to go into Bedford and do my thing. The numbers have gone like this. Alone the first day, 2 the second day, alone the third time, 2, and I've got stuff to say about both of those people last week, and then who knows this week. Maybe I'll be alone again. Maybe there'll be more. One way or another, I'm heading in there. I shop therefore I am. That so offended me that I asked my wife if I could have that paper, and it's been hanging around here. Or I've had it on this table. You can tell by how the paper has aged in the time I've had it here. It's February of last year. It's been that long. It's 2018. Anyway, I wanted to show that. That offends me. I shop, therefore I am. Of course, it's an allusion. I'm going to straighten the camera just. It's an allusion to. What is it? Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am, a real famous quote. I can't wait to burn that and get rid of that. But I just thought I'm going to show that because, and I think about that really in terms of the fall festival. Let me get rid of that because I'll tell you what, that really does offend me, and I'll be happy to. I just couldn't find the time to point it out. It seemed like, well, now's a good time to point it out. I'll come back to this. The Fall Foliage Festival in Bedford is over, 2 weekends, and I have called it an orgy of waste. I have at no point approved of it, although, and my wife is actually there too with me on this one, although she and others, they're normally not as extreme as me. They're a little bit more willing to tolerate that or understand that there are a lot of people go and they eat all that food and they have a good time. But anyway, it's over, so we'll see what it's going to be like in Bedford Friday. One of these days I'm going to hit really bitter, severe weather, in which case I still intend to be there. I wanted to say that depending on what kind of news you watch, you may not be aware of this, but there's been some really violent protesting in Peru. Now, it's not for the same cause exactly, I don't think, but it has to do with the indigenous people in Peru. There's also been some extreme protesting in Barcelona, and that's for independence. That section of Spain would like to be independent from Spain, and they're not being allowed to. I'd already talked about Hong Kong, the protesting there. There's a lot of protesting going on right now. And it reminds me, as I think I've said before, of the late 1960s, when really all over the world, especially university students, were protesting. And I think even back then, it wasn't just the war in Vietnam, but but there was a lot of protesting, and I see it once again. Now, my sign, I can't wait to show you my sign. Well, no, wait, I won't show you my sign yet. The first time that somebody joined me, it was a young man named Paul, and he was a former student of mine. And people have said to me, my neighbor's partner was saying to me just the other day, she said, you got to have a sign. People won't know why you're there. They're just going to think, well, you're just sitting there. I can't do that. I can't make big letters. People would be more amused at how ridiculous my sign looked than what it actually said. And she said, well, your friend, Paul, is coming tomorrow. Have him make the sign. And Paul is an artist. I won't use his full name yet, but I don't think he'd mind at all. He is an artist, a former student, very skilled in many ways, a young man. And he's an artist, and he just made me a sign. Here's what it is. Don't grow, don't mow, don't grow. Oh, cat. I get cats everywhere. Don't mow, don't grow. Don't mow, don't go, degrow. Trying to figure out, this is a pizza box. Trying to figure out what people going by could see quickly. And that's kind of my message. Don't mow. Just stop mowing. I mean, let farmers mow their hay or mow their grain, sure, but stop mowing lawns. You just stop. Any place, Bedford would look so different if people didn't mow. It would, within a month or two, it would begin to heal. And talk about rewilding. Don't go. Stop traveling. By all means, don't fly places, but just don't use your car. If you've got a car already, well, just don't use it. Don't go anywhere. Unless you go on foot, that'd be fine. And then degrow. Well, degrow is the degrowth movement is one of the two that I'm closest allied with, degrowth and decentralism, which is really not known. On the backside, though, it said, Fridays for Future. You know, that might give people a little context of what's going on here. Oh, in Bedford, they're seeing what they've seen in the news in Montreal and New York and Washington and Jane Fonda and all over Europe and Greta. You know, they might actually know Greta now. You know, as little as 2 months ago, very educated people never heard of her. They had no idea who she was. Well, I've been following her for well over a year. Almost as soon as she sat in front of that Swedish parliament, I managed to find out about it. And then climate. Everyone is aware of climate. And I thought, well, that's quick. Oh, one other thing I wanted to say, Paul, you know, he gave this to me and said, oh, Paul, you got to sign this. And so he went to sign it, and I said, wait a minute. Or I said, and he did. He said, Paul made this. We had a little discussion about the Latin word fecit, which means he made, past tense of the verb to make in Latin. And artists and craftsmen in the Renaissance anyway, or a little bit later, used to sign their work, Antonio fecit. Anthony made this. And so Paul did that. He says, you're Paulus fecit. And I think that's really cool. So he has signed it. Now, I told you about Paul and the sign, and he worked with me a little bit. Very interesting, very skilled man, and not exactly of my thinking, but so close. It's almost exactly. Now, the second day, this man, his name is Mike, and again, I just won't use whole names yet anyway, but he came armed. Not with a hammer, but with a paper, which we wrote on some, which he had seen some of my discussion online about, you know, carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and he wanted to debunk that idea that, oh, well, it used to be so much worse. And so, I mean, a very scholarly paper. It's scary, you know, very scientific, very hard to understand. He understands it. And I sort of understand it, but it's been a long time, and I'm not really trained as a scientist. But anyway, we talked for a long time. Both of these were very useful meetings for me. And he is perfectly able to understand Wedge's paradigm. He's trained as I'm going to say mathematician and a scientist. He calls himself the science policeman. Now, the Decentralist Manifesto, these are on my on this channel, the Decentralist Manifesto. He didn't know about those. He'd just been kind of current with stuff I've been posting on Facebook, I think. Although he'd looked at some of my videos. The Homestead Engineer's Handbook, all this kind of stuff is discussed quite thoroughly on this YouTube channel. But it comes back from about 1973 or 1972. That's how far back it is. And in many ways, I just sort of put it on a shelf and thought, well, I don't know if anyone will ever even see this stuff. Even though I thought it, and I still think it was at the cutting edge at that time. Well, we'll see what he ends up saying, because he's begun to listen to it, and I'm sure we're going to be in contact. He also, I learned a lot from him. He told me about a linguist, John McWhorter, whom I checked out, I looked up, and sure enough, here is a very good linguist. And so it's been beneficial for me, this protesting. All right, bye for now.